Good evening and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendez. Hope you guys are all doing well on your Thursday evening. On tonight's big match preview, of course, we'll be looking ahead to Saturday's game up at Oxford, but we have to look back at last night's fantastic 1-0 win up at the Riverside against Middlesbrough. Conor Coady with the goal just before the hour mark, and then an outrageous defensive display from the Addicts meant we kept another clean sheet and got a fantastic 3 points that takes us further and further away from the relegation zone. We're eyeing up mid-table, maybe even the top half now after last night's victory. Joining me to look back and forward, first up, fresh back from Middlesbrough this morning, is Tash Everett. How you doing, Tash?
Hey guys, yeah, very good. I literally got back about 3 hours ago. But yeah, I thought it was going to take a lot to top Ipswich away, but Nathan Jones and the boys proved us all wrong, didn't they? But yeah, I'm still in shock from last night, to be honest with you. But happy days.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, the only Freeman says he saw you on Sky as well. Star of Sky's TV celebration last night. Tash Everett. Also, bottom of the screen is Mark Newbury. How you doing, Mark?
I'm all right. I'm just a bit upset. I just went to take some milk out of my fridge and Doc just came and took it off me. So, you know, I think it was that kind of day. But no, I'm ecstatic after last night.
Yeah, fantastic performance, fantastic 3 points up at the Riverside Stadium. We're going to hear the goal shortly. We're going to hear from the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones. We're going to hear from the goal scorer as well, Conor Coady, later on in the show. As I said, we'll look ahead to Oxford as well. We've got Jack Ward from the Jack Ward Football Podcast, who's going to join us later on in the show. He's an Oxford fan. Give us the news on Matt Bloomfield's side, who've turned the corner, have won the last three, giving themselves a good fighting chance of staying up as well. We've given ourselves more than a fighting chance of staying up. I am calling it official now. We are 100% staying up. There's no chance we go down now. So it's literally impossible. So, well, not literally, but yeah, I'm pretty pleased that we are definitely going to be playing Championship football next season. So that's good news. We want to hear from you guys as well. Evening to everyone who's joined us in the chat. Gary said that was not expected. Outstanding. Every single player gave their all. We are almost there. So yeah, let us know your thoughts on last night's win. You can email us studio@charltonlive.co.uk. You can tweet us at Charlton Live, or you can do what Gary, what Sam, and what loads of you have done in the live chat. Head over to the YouTube chat section and put in your comments on last night's victory. Tell us what you made of it. How much did you enjoy it? Is enjoy it the right word for that last half an hour? I think so, but at the time it didn't feel like it. But yeah, fantastic 3 points. Before we hear the goal, Tash, you know, other than starring on Sky Sports last night, you were enjoying the game as well. I mean, it's when you've gone all that distance, and a lot of people come back overnight and road closures and all that to contend with, probably got back at about 3-4 in the morning, or if you spent the money to stay up there and you know, enjoy the sights and sounds of Middlesbrough and the wind, because it was the windiest place I've ever been to. It's just made nights like last night make it all worthwhile, and I don't think many of us saw it coming.
No, and I also forget that when you go to a football game, there's a high chance you'll be caught on camera acting silly. So yeah, reminder to myself for that one. But hey, look, much like everyone else in that away end last night, I was on cloud nine. I think when we scored the goal, there was a bit of a delay. Obviously, it was scored the third goal away from us, but like there's a bit of a delay in the reaction from the Charlton fans, because we were all like, sorry, has that just gone in? And also, I thought that it was Dykes that scored it at first, and then my head was even more blown off when someone said it was Conor Coady. So yeah, it was brilliant. I mean, as you said, was it the most comfortable second half of football after that, or actually was it the most comfortable game? No. But, you know, from that lineup, I didn't expect us to be going there and going to try to match Middlesbrough. And why would you do that? Because that's a stupid thing to do. And Nathan Jones masterclass. So we'll go into it. But I'm sure that bloke feels like the happiest person on earth today because he got it absolutely spot on. And, you know, people like me prior to the game being like, well, it was nice to tick off a new ground. Not going to get anything here. How wrong were we? What do we know about football? But no, just brilliant. Every single player yesterday. I mean, there's too many of them to shout out, but the people that came into that squad that haven't had game time, you know, people that have not been in the picture at all, namely Goff. You know, people stepping up to the plate. Coady playing in a position that he hadn't played for us so far. The new signings stepping up, like, you know, and to be honest, although I say, you know, we set up in a way that we weren't going to go and try and match them, we had some great chances and we did create more than I thought in that first half. In fact, when we went in 0-0 at half-time, I thought, I'll take it. I'll take the point. Did I think we were going to go on and win? No, but there we go. That's Charlton. And as you say, Louis, this is why we do this. Nathan Jones called us mental, and he is right to. But yeah, nights like that, you think this is why I do it. This is why you do it.
Yeah, last night it makes all those journeys you've had over the years worthwhile. Fantastic night at the Riverside Stadium. Our first win up there since 2005. Let's have a listen back to the goal. Then Greg and Tell were up there with Brownie for Charlton TV.
On the pitches. Carry the long throw in towards Coady with the touch, and Conor Coady scores for Charlton. A brilliant long throw. Finds Coady, just gets the touch. And Charlton are taking the lead here at the Riverside Stadium.
Yeah, well, listen, they said there might be a little bit of tension in the air. Well, now there really will be a bit of tension in the air. And the substitutions have worked. And they say never make a substitution, don't they, when you're facing a set piece against, if you're the side facing that set piece, and it has gone against Middlesbrough. I actually missed it. I was still writing down the substitutes. Let me see the replay.
Well, it's Clark's throw, and Coady just
their
gets his
perspective,
foot in front of
from
his
our-
man.
Listen, it's brilliant from our perspective. But from their perspective, you can't let a long throw start to drop in the middle of your six. But nevertheless, take full advantage when you can. And Conor Coady just gets that leg across his man and directs it into the bottom corner, and Charlton lead.
Let's try and put this into some sort of context then, Mark. So going into yesterday, Middlesbrough had only lost 2 games at home all season. They were 5 unbeaten at the Riverside since they lost a hole. The only other side that had beaten them was Coventry. No side had conceded fewer goals at home. They'd only conceded 12 goals at home before last night. They were the 4th highest goal scorers in the Championship, the joint best defence in the Championship. But we beat them, and we went there with a game plan, and it was executed to perfection. And now cast your mind back to, you know, an hour and 15 minutes before kickoff when the teams come out, and we've made 5 changes. You know, Lloyd Jones is correctly being rested because he's got that yellow card thing hanging over him. If he got booked last night, it would have been a 2-game suspension, so they saved him. Bell, you know, we know what his injury problems are like, so he comes out. Obviously, Ramsey's come out, and you know, a youngster coming into the back three in Keenan Goff, an experienced head in Conor Coady, and you know, Macaulay Gillespie, who's had spells this season where he's looked all right. He's had difficult spells as well, but they've all come in and been asked to do a job. But at that time, an hour and 15 before kickoff, I don't think anyone was seeing us winning this game. And after about 25 minutes, you thought, not being funny, but we're defending pretty well here. Can we last 90 minutes? Turns out we can.
Well, it's funny because I'd watched Boro absolutely spank QPR like a naughty stepchild. And you thought to yourself, you know, it was trepidation. And when you see the lineup and you're thinking, oh, you've changed out your back three, we thought Lloyd might get a rest because of his cards. But to bring in, you know, Cody's an England international. And he's experienced, so it made perfect sense to drop him back there. Goff, I've always liked when I've seen him and thought to myself, that makes sense as well, because having Clark the other side of him, I don't think it's like you've put, 12-year-olds in the back. Macca is a divider amongst the fans, I think, of people who don't like him and people who really don't like him. But, you know, because you're thinking, we know what he can do when he's got a left back on the outside of him. When he's not being asked to play out of that and responsible for one of the greatest headers I've seen on the floor, where he's literally snaked his body to knock it out. And it was a header I described last night as below sea level. But again, he was putting his body in the way. And I could wax lyrical about any one of that starting 11 because there wasn't a weak link and they were organised. And you're right, after the first 10 minutes, you're thinking, Boro have had a couple of half chances, and you're thinking, did we get left open a bit? But they weren't finishing them. As a bit of a warning. But you're right, we settled down. And yes, it was coming back at us quite fast. You know, Charlie and Miles were trying their best to put themselves around, but it just wasn't really sticking up with them. But with Carey, Doc and Coventry, and it's funny because I can't think of a specific Coventry thing he did. With Doc, he's thrown himself. With Coventry was just there. And it just, at one time, I'm thinking, have we got more than 11 players on the pitch? Because it just seemed to be, as a team, we were so regimented, dropping it back into a position. And the commentator said, we were happy to let Ayling have the ball and let him run 20, 30 yards with it because there was no outball for him. And he's not going to poke one in from 40 yards. And when they did have shots, they were off. We put bodies in the way. And I think the longer it went on, I think it would probably get under Middlesbrough because they probably just thought we were going to turn up, bend over, lay on our backs and have our tummies tickled. Let's use that analogy. And we didn't. And we showed fight and we showed spirit. And I could not see, because of the way it looked, and Mannion, coming for crosses and being commanding, I mean, I know it was touch and go with his injury, whether he'd have to come off, but, it's just one of those things. But he battled on. But no, this show lasts an hour. I could wax lyrical about last night's offensive display until Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it was so impressive, Tash. I mean, some of the stats from yesterday's games was genuinely quite funny when you look at like the passing stats, like accurate passes. I think Middlesbrough made something about 680. We made about 150. And funny enough, I mean, when we hear from Nathan, he does say we could have done a little bit better in possession of the ball. But it was always going to be a game where our possession of the football wasn't going to be the biggest part of it, as long as we did our defensive roles well, which we did. I mean, it's so the concentration levels to deal with a Middlesbrough side that move the ball around and try and pass you to death, and they sort of invert and the players come deep and they drop out, and then Ayling comes forward and Belanda has the ball a lot at the back. I mean, there's so much you've got to keep your eye on. Don't let the players sort of get a run on you. And the way they did that was so impressive. But to do it for 90 minutes, I mean, particularly that last half an hour when they bring on Sarmiento, who's tricky and step overs and all that sort of stuff, and it will try and draw you into a foul or something like that. Like to get through that and to not give up many massive chances. I mean, stats said it was one big chance. And we when we had a big chance in the first half as well, for all their possession, for all their hard work. I mean, we just didn't give them those moments, and it was such an impressive display in that regard. And you just hope you go down the other end and can find a goal. When Kelman's missed that chance in the first half, you're thinking, I hope that's not going to come back to bite us. But we get the goal with the long throw. It's Harry Clark. So you're hearing the interview. I got confused. I thought it was Carey who taken it. They're right on the far side of the pitch from where we were when he took it. And then Conor Coady, they've all followed Dykes in towards the near post. And Conor Coady's like, well, I'll have some of that then, and just wraps his foot around the ball and puts it in. And as you say, it was quite a delayed reaction from the away end at that point. I think it was in shock at some points from people there.
Yeah, I definitely was. No, Harry Clark yesterday, by the way. I mean, I can speak so highly of all of our January signings, but I think again yesterday was absolutely brilliant. And before he took the throw in, I thought, he's got a nice long run up there, actually. You go to some grounds and there's very minimal space. He had plenty of room to run. So I was like, wow. And then still didn't expect him to throw it quite that far. And I don't even know if the Charlton players expect him to throw it that far, but it worked brilliantly. And yeah, as you say, they were too busy looking at Dykes and everyone else. And to be fair, if Coady hadn't got to it, Tyrese Campbell was sort of lurking to the left as well. So he could have run into that space. But I mean, the finish from Coady as well was just excellent. But yeah, I mean, I've watched Boro a few times this season and they play beautiful football. And I'm not taking that away from them. Like, you know, the way they pass the ball, the way they build up attacks, you know, they know each other inside out. I've got so much respect for them. And especially after the Rob Edwards saga and then bringing in their new manager, and that could have derailed them and it didn't. And, you know, they're a strong side. And I think, you know, we've seen a lot of them this season that says that they could be in the Premier League this year. It wouldn't next year, sorry. It wouldn't be out of the question. It's not undeserved. But they have a problem playing against teams like us. I mean, obviously, they drew to Oxford. They drew to West Brom, I think, as well. Like, they just cannot seem to break down these teams that go to the Riverside and say, we're going to play a low block. I mean, we didn't do that the whole time, definitely not. But, like, fundamentally, we were saying, we're just going to soak up the pressure. You can do what you want, but we're going to reduce you to shots from outside the area. As much as they were trying to do that, as you say, like, everything that they were doing, I mean, the Boro fans said it themselves. Like, they were not at the races in terms of shots at all. Like, anything that they were trying to do yesterday was off target. Even the ones that were on target were soft. And, like, that's not taking anything away from Mannion, by the way, because some of the saves that he made yesterday, although he didn't have loads to do, especially the one that ricocheted off the top of the crossbar, that I thought he did really well for that one. There was a weird one where it bounced in front of him and he sort of had to like chest it away out for a corner that could have gone anywhere. And I think the one that scared me, and I shouted quite loudly and it scared the bloke next to me, was the Hayden Hackney chance that was sort of bobbling around in the box that like went thankfully straight at Will Mannion. But, you know, these things are easy to mess up, and there's like the header, I can't remember the name of the guy now, but the guy that should have
Castledine,
Castledine, and he just went over, and I thought, oh, so today is our day. And the closer that I was getting to the end of that game, I just thought, wow, we've actually done this. So yeah, I think I'm very happy we didn't just go there and try not to do anything at all. I mean, that's not a very professional performance if you do that. But I wouldn't blame a team that would go to Middlesbrough and think, you know, we'll just try and get a point, try and get a clean sheet. But yeah, we did the job on them, and, you know, 78% possession for them. But what have they got to show for it? Nothing. So yeah, I think we've done an absolute job on them, and fair play to Nathan Jones.
Yeah, I think it was 87 touches inside the opposition box from Middlesbrough, or 86 it says, which apparently someone on Twitter was suggesting was a championship record. We saw it. Me and Rich were discussing this on the train home this morning, trying to think about, like, how can you sort of prove how good the defensive display this was with the stats? Because there wasn't loads of crosses coming in for, like, Lloyd Jones, or obviously Conor Coady was the equivalent today, but obviously Lloyd's clearances stats, for example, on Saturday were incredible, like really high. But those sort of numbers weren't there from a Charlton point of view, because Boro played a different way. They just tried to pass themselves in. So I was looking at maybe interceptions, but we decided the fact they had 86 touches inside our box, but you know, just didn't force enough actual chances, sort of showed how well they were sort of dealing with things at the back there. It was funny though. I mean, Dan said, I was so glad I made the journey up, although I wasn't when I saw the lineup. Every one of them made us proud. Sam said, we were all questioning Nathan when we saw the lineup. After that, I'm never going to go and question Nathan again. Mark said, after the 5.5 hour journey, I died inside when I saw that lineup. But hey, that's why Jones is the manager and I'm an electrician. It was I don't know, how would you see it? I mean, before the game, pretty much all the chat was, Mark, from our fans was like, well, you know, we've sort of written this one off, and we're just going to try and save ourselves for a very important game on Saturday against Oxford. There's obviously, I mean, Nathan sort of describes it in a different way, but there was a feeling that was sort of the case. But for someone like, it's not like we brought in some nobody. We brought in an England international in Conor Coady to play in that in the middle of that back three. We brought in Macaulay Gillespie, as I said, has done okay at times this season in certain games. And you brought in Keenan Goff, who, to be fair, only gets chucked in for really difficult games, it seems like. Middlesbrough, Chelsea, Nathan Jones is like, you really got to go and earn your spot. But he really grew into the game and did really well as well.
Well, if Nathan trusts him, we should trust him. Yeah, it is one of those things. I saw someone say, oh, it's not very respectful for the fans who travelled. If we played an entirely different 11 and there was a lot of the kids, Lacquabera and people like that, starting, then you might go, yeah, he's not really taking it seriously. But Nathan, since day one of this season, has said squad. It's a squad. You know, have that mentality. It's a squad. It's not just the 11. It's the game changers who come on, and it's being part of it. People like Rankin Casella, who we've talked about quite a bit, who say, you know, you're part of a squad. You're there when I need you. You know, and that's how it's going to be. I thought when he made the subs last night, it was just the right time and the right people for the subs. TC possibly didn't really get into it, needed longer studs in his boot. It did seem to slip over a bit, and probably had a decent chance towards the end where you're thinking a second would just be sort of like literally chef's kiss on it. But it is, you do look at it and go, it makes perfect sense to do what he's done, and he trusted. And really, it was only the three at the back who came in. So because, you know, Miles and Charlie going up front, you know, a lot of us had said like Charlie alongside Dykes, but again, when he brought sort of like the Dykes on as well, and a Murray Bell, Ramsey, we just went, you know what, upgrade. Is it an upgrade? It's just, look, it was seamless. They came in, they knew their jobs, they were well coached, the obligatory, you know, get your drinks ready, best version of themselves. And there wasn't a weak link. I mean, it was funny seeing Jonesy doing his pieces on the line when TC slipped over and he was like bouncing around like Super Mario, giving him a mushroom. But it's because he really was thinking, right, that could have released a little bit of pressure. Could we have sort of like passed out a bit further up and turned them around a bit more? Yes, but they were doing nothing with it. Like Tash said, they were just literally trying to pass it into our goal without, and there was no one there saying, right, I'm going to have a crack from 25 yards, whether that was a confidence thing for them. But like I say, they've struggled against, you know, the bottom sides, which we are technically still one of those teams. And, you know, it just shows if you can outwork somebody, the team will always beat an individual.
Yeah, it's funny. I literally think we're one more win away from us changing our mentality. I tweeted earlier, like top half finish, maybe. Shall we start looking up instead of down again? Because I mean, if we lose Saturday, it all turns again, obviously. But we're in that situation. We're above Queen's Park Rangers now. Like they're on a bad run of form. But has anyone mentioned QPR going down? No, they've not even been as part of that conversation. So if we're above them, either they've got dragged into it, or more realistically, the way I see it is we're fine. Like we're a lower mid-table side now, and we played our way into that. You know, was it 2 defeats in 9 now since that Millwall game? It's a really important turnaround, and yeah, really pleased with how it went. Normally says there was a few times I was screaming to clear the ball instead of trying to play ourselves away from danger yesterday, anywhere towards the corners to allow some time to push up and reorganise. I mean, Big Dom said we gave the ball back to Boro all night as we couldn't string passes together outside the box. That has to improve. So like I say, Nathan does mention that. I did feel in the first half, for example, if you compare it to the Southampton away game, we actually got out a bit better. That, you know, I think at Southampton away, it felt like we were mainly relying on TC to drag us up the pitch. But I think Carey was involved in some moves yesterday. There was the big chance for Kelman, which came from that cross from Harry Clark as well on the right-hand side. In the second half, I felt we weren't getting out quite as well at the start of that second half. So when I saw Nathan made those 3 switches, I did think it's because from what we've seen in the first half, this game is actually there to be won on the counter-attack, and didn't come from a counter-attack. It came from that long throw from Harry Clark. And yeah, great moment. Great for Conor Coady to get the opening goal as well. Right, let's have a listen back to what Nathan Jones said after last night's win, caught up with the Addicts boss up at the Riverside Stadium. Fantastic performance and a fantastic result tonight.
Yeah, look, it's all about the result really for us at this point, and coming here to, you know, arguably, well, definitely one of the best teams in the division, with how they play, with what they have. You know, these have been at it for 10, 12 years trying to get out of this division, spending. The owner, fantastic owner, backed them. So, you know, to come in, put in that level of performance, I'm pleased. Would I like us to have more possession, a bit more of a forward threat? Yes. But if I'm honest, every time we had it, we gave it away. So we were better off not having the ball. And that's what we did tonight.
Tactically spot on tonight. You knew what you had to do when you came here.
Well, similar to the Southampton game. They've been in the Premier League. They have wonderful players. You know, they have players that in the media said, you know, Aidan Morris didn't even know who he was playing tonight, apparently. So they're confident. They play a certain way, and I'm sure they'll either get promoted or push it right to the limit. So for us to do what we did tonight, I'm proud, because I'd love just to play more and to have more possession, dominate possession, and to see that. But if you can't do that, and to see a group of players putting their body on the line, defending, wanting to defend, wanting to do the basics really well, it was outstanding.
Yeah, 12th clean sheet of the season. That's up there with probably one of the most
13th,
satisfying. 13th,
13th,
sorry.
yes.
That's, one of the most satisfying.
Well, it is, because it's such an important part of the season, and to get back-to-back wins, and to for the wins we've had lately, Sheffield United, Stoke, win on the weekend, again, win tonight. These big performances, in a monster of a league, and I'm just proud of them. And the fixture things hasn't been kind to us in terms of 2 away games. We've had to come up here away. Hasn't been kind to them either, because they played Sunday, they played Wednesday, and then they've got to play early on Saturday. I mean, I don't know who does that, but look, I'm just really proud, and a massive win.
You made changes coming into tonight as well. I guess that shows you the squad depth that you do have.
Yeah, and we had to make changes today to utilise the full squad going into the weekend with everything. I mean, Lloyd's on 9 bookings, so we couldn't risk him. And to be fair, we feel that Saturday's probably more of a game where he's going to be needed rather than tonight. We knew we had Conor Coady, who's an organiser, who was outstanding. He shifts, he sees danger and stuff. Kane's been suffering with his hamstring, so those two we couldn't really risk tonight. And then Amari, we have to use our squad, and Maka has been brilliant for us. So we just used the squad tonight, and the front two, sorry, as well. Not saying, and then. We left TC and Dykesy out tonight and played the other two, and yeah, so that's we'd really use the squad tonight.
Club released a video of you over the weekend of you showing how Stanley can increase his distance on his long throws, and paid off again.
Well, yeah, look, we'll take any way to score at the minute. We know we've got to grow at this level. We know we're going to have to get better. We're going to have to get better in possession. We're going to have to be more of an attacking threat and so on. But from the foundation that we got, we're happy. And however we score, I don't care. But, to go back-to-back 1-0 wins and to get it here, wonderful.
Much closer again. You're not going to say you're safe, but you're very, very close now, I feel.
Well, look, I'm not... We're not. Again, I don't want to be, too after the fact or anything, because we didn't come into this league to stay in it. Like, we started first 15 games, we were brilliant, we were top 6 all season, and then injuries could, really hit us at a time when we had big difficult games, and that set us back a bit. Now we've regrouped and we've gone again, sort of thing, and we want to finish as high as we can. We don't just want to survive. We don't want to scrape over the line and stuff. We're in a good position. We're almost mid-table, We're above some big sides, some monsters of clubs and so on and so forth. So we don't take any of that for granted whatsoever. But our aim wasn't just to stay in it. Yes, you have to stay in the division first and foremost. If you want to build, you have to stay in the division. But it's not just about staying in the division. It's about growing and finishing as high as we can so that we can build from next year.
It's fine. We've been backed by some great travelling supporters this year, but to come to the North East,
I mean, they mental. How are they coming up here on a Wednesday night? It's mental. But they are brilliant. They are brilliant. I mean, outstanding, super. And they gave them a performance, and they could, they were singing with quiet. This place was quiet. It really was. Apart from when they felt we were time wasting, we probably lifted them a little bit and it's a fantastic football club. Look at the stadium, look at everything around here. But our fans were absolutely magnificent. And to come up here on a Wednesday night that's dedication, that's outstanding. But do I expect it from ours? Yeah.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high-quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer, It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview, but we're looking back at the moment at last night's spectacular 1-0 win over Middlesbrough up at the Riverside Stadium there. We just heard from the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones, who I tantalisingly I gave him the wrong amount of clean sheets, but luckily Richard stepped in before that became a problem because you don't get your stats wrong, do you? You don't want to be doing that. I also got the throw-in taker wrong as well, but to be fair, I generally thought Sonny Carey took it. I didn't realise Harry Clark had taken it from where I was. Isaac said it's funny that he called our fans nutters for going up there, but I mean the support was excellent as you'd always expect from our fans, but. It was it was a brilliant night. I was still, like I say, I was still in that sort of like, how many points away are we from the relegation zone, Tash? But the last couple of weeks, actually, that I've said that, I've noticed Nathan doesn't want to be. We don't want to be talking in those sort of tones anymore, and that's why I think you're right. Now, I think let's look at mid-table. Let's look at finishing maybe top half. Let's make this into a really, really impressive return to the Championship and get maybe a top half finish, because that would be a spectacular return for us this season.
Yeah, like me and Mark were shaking our head at you when you were saying that we were safe. But I think last night, I feel like I because of my anxious brain, I will always be like, until it's mathematically confirmed, I will still always be in a little bit back of my head like, but you are right in the sense of, I think now, I mean, come on, like after the Birmingham victory, I felt much more positive. Last night completely exceeded any expectations that I had. And I'd like to think now that we have dropped, as you say, that mentality of being like, you've got to constantly look behind you, Like the 5 teams that are involved in fighting, or trying to avoid, those last 2 relegation spots, there's 3 points between them. Like there's a 7-point gap between, what was it, us and Pompey? So us and QPR on 47 and they're on 40 or something. That's, if you weren't a Charlton fan, you'd look at that and go, you'll be fine. But being Charlton fans, obviously, you're still going to worry. But I do think now, touch wood, there are going to be teams down there that are going to put a run together. Look at Oxford, the people that we're literally facing this weekend, they've won 3 in a row. It is possible. Leicester, unfortunately, are doing something under Rowett, which, I'm sure Oxford fans didn't see coming. However, we are right now to change that mentality, and that's not to be naive at all, because, stranger things have happened. But at the same time, look at the likes of, as you were saying earlier, Preston have fallen off a cliff, Bristol City fallen off a cliff, QPR have done that. Look at all those teams. I was looking at the table earlier and I thought, you lot are actually not on a very good run at all. And you shouldn't count yourselves out of it. Like, as you say, we're above QPR on the table now. No one has ever gone, oh, well, they could be dragged into it, have they? So let's try and adopt that mentality going forward to being like, well, actually, we're not a million miles away from just being solidified in this league. And that is way beyond what I would have accepted this season. Genuinely, for me, I was like, we stay up, that's cool. But like, I just don't want to go back down to League One. So yeah, I think I agree with you. Let's switch that narrative by not being naive and sort of arrogant, but just going, no, we do have it in us. We're in much better form than a lot of those clubs around us at the moment. We have to take that mentality moving forward, including in this weekend, because I'm sick to death of not turning up against Oxford. I know we beat them at home, but I mean, our record at the Kassam, off the top of my head, is not good. Even when we got promoted under Bowyer, we lost there right before we went up. So it's about time we corrected that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting us to win 5-0. But I just think, don't put your foot off the pedal. I think you've got the opportunity to get this done and get the worries and the fears buried. Take that opportunity, please. I mean, not just from our mental health perspective, but just, you can do it. You've got that momentum now. Just go and do it. And fingers crossed, we can do that this weekend.
We'll be going back to our first team for Saturday as well. Which is, that's the thing. They're rested now. How funny, funny is probably not the right word, but imagine if Lloyd Jones got booked in that 1 minute he came on last night. But he got the rest in as well, which was good. Mari Bell got an hour on the bench, which is handy for him. Like I say, I think Coady was excellent. We're going to hear from him shortly. I thought Gillespie did well. I thought Goff did well as well. As Joe's saying, how many of the teams in the relegation zone are looking at us as a team to chase down for safety? Like, I've seen quite a few graphics about the relegation battle where we're not even in it. That's why we're in the situation we're in now. It's a good position. We've got a few emails in coming in. Simon said, no one saw those 6 points coming. We are better against the better teams. I still want to win at Oxford just to prove we are more mid-table than scrappers. It was a tough watch, but Jones will keep us up, hopefully to rebuild for next year. Ben said he watched the game last night. He was over the moon with the 3 points. When the team sheet was announced, I was worried looking at the makeshift defence with a general mix of squad players being played at one of the toughest games. That being said, the attitude and commitment to all of them was outstanding, from McCauley's vertical header to Doherty cramping up with his hamstrings. Yeah, Doc, we haven't not really spoke about Doc yesterday, but I thought he was excellent as well. Scrapping and getting the ball away. We've said at times yesterday, maybe there was a couple of times we could have been a bit more careful in possession when we did win that ball, but Doc was there so often to win the ball. It was very, very impressive. Brandon said it's been a long time since I've been able to actually watch a full match, but it was great to see we're really scrapping in all areas across the pitch and going toe-to-toe with the big hitters in the table while playing our granted gnarly brand of football. Results should be the priority. Any nice football is a bonus. Shout out to what could have been the best pantomime football I've seen this season, when in stoppage time, Dykes flicked the ball into Tyrese Campbell's face, it pinging round a bit and then being fed through to Tyrese, who slipped, triggering Nathan to go absolutely berserk on the touchline. Yeah, that was right. That was very near the end. There was a ball out to TC and he slipped, and you're thinking, oh no, please don't. I mean, TC struggled a bit when he came on last night in possession, but he did put a good block in. I think it was Sarmiento across. He got back to block, which was important yesterday as well. I'll try and get to a couple more of the emails. Ken says, based on your rightly cautious points total for safety, given we start Oxford with 6 as opposed to 1, we could end up with 55 points. Should we lose at Sheffield Wednesday, we'd still have 52. I reckon we're home and dry. That's Ken. I agree with Ken. So this time last week, we were saying we were predicting by this point in like a purposely pessimistic prediction that we'd only have 1 point out of there. We got 6. So that's not a bad position to be in, is it? Clive says, how much do you think it would cost in transfer fees just to retain our current first choice without looking to invest further? So, I mean, before we hear from Conor Coady, Mark, I mean, I'd suggest it'd be quite difficult to keep him next season for various reasons. But people like Harry Clark, I'd love to see Clark stay. Chambers, could we get another loan? Dykes, I think he's done well, and it'd be nice to try and keep him. Of the signings that come in, I mean, they've all impacted us in a really important way.
Yeah, I mean, we'll think about Coady. He's on a huge wedge, and his family's based up north. And I heard the interview which he did with Richard Play, and said he just wants to play football, and I get that. But there's also, he realises at his age, the commitment to family as well. He might be looking to go somewhere and start coaching alongside it, if that's what he wants to go into. I would literally see what Ipswich want for Clark, because I just think, I know Nathan loves James Bree, and he did well for us at the start of the season, but dropped off a bit. But Clark, I think, would just fit so well on that side. Dykes, another one I'd seen this week, said a couple of teams are looking at him. But the teams, they said, I thought, well, that doesn't seem likely. It just seemed like a bit of some journalist who was had 5 minutes bored and just put out a couple of random names out of the hat. Chambers, yes, if we get a years-long loan as a backup and alternative for Edwards, obviously we want Edwards back, would be great. So, but Clark would be the one where if a board said, let's spend some serious money, and if Ipswich want a couple of million for him, fine, let's do it, because we don't know where Ipswich are going to be. If Ipswich go up, are they likely to take Clark with them? Don't think so. I think they'll want to take the players who have got them up this year, and he could be superfluous to their needs. So, and then, like I say, then Dykes, it depends if you can get him on a wage which he's happy and he just wants to play football, because that knowledge, but then you have him, and if we trigger Matty Godden as well, and we got the other lads out, I know Mbik's injured now until the sort of like next season. Carnu, if he comes back, we got Gas on a 2-year. Can we offload him somewhere? it's going to be a difficult bit of horse trading, I'd say, at the end of the season, but easier once we know where we are.
Yeah, well, I can tell you where we are. We're going to be in the Championship. I've already stated that as a fact, Mark. So there you go. Someone else who thinks they're going to be in the Championship is Burgundian, who's a Spurs fan. Says, Spurs fan here, looking forward to playing you guys next season. Never attended a match at the Valley before, despite travelling past many times. Well, you'd be more than welcome, Burgundian. I will say there's a reasonable chance you're going to lose based on what I've seen over this season as well. So let's see how we go with that. Right, Conor Coady was mentioned there. I had the absolute pleasure of having a chat with him last night as well after his maiden Addicts goal won us all 3 points up at Middlesbrough. First Addicts goal, and what a result tonight for your side.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been my first Addicts goal. I had a chance against QPR the other week, to be fair. I should have scored, so I should have had one already. But no, it's a nice feeling. Listen, to come here is tough, really tough. We knew coming here, we knew what sort of team they were, we know how good they are. We've got some top players, and listen, you expect them to go on and play in the Premier League next season. They probably deserve to, because, like I said, they're a good team. But it was about us being resilient tonight. It was about us showing a performance that's worthy enough to play for Charlton, and I think the boys done that from start to finish. So they were outstanding.
Yeah, we've seen some great defensive displays so far this season. This was right up there, arguably one of the best.
Yeah, but it had to be. It had to be. We couldn't come here and sit off. We couldn't, and listen, we sat off at times, but we had to engage at times. We had to defend properly. We had to put our bodies on the line. We had to block. We had to head. We had to do all them things, and we knew it coming. And when you come to a place like this, and I've been here plenty of times in the past, this is one of the best teams I've come to play against at Riverside. They moved the ball that well, but it was about us sticking in there. It was all about us. We made a few changes for the game, and I think the lads who came in gave a top account of themselves. And listen, we dug in at the end and got the win.
Yeah, how hard is it when there's this relentless passing the ball around? You've got to keep your concentration. You can't let anything slip, but you did it.
Yeah, I don't think people understand how hard it is when you come to a place like this and play a team who are flying high in the division. It's tough. I've been lucky enough in my career to be on the same side as some of these players when we've been towards the top of the league, and it's the best feeling in the world. So when a team comes and does what we do, it becomes hard for you, and I thought we'd done that tonight. And listen, the gaffer set us up perfect. He spoke about it before the game. He wasn't just come to make up the numbers and let them have a party in the stands, and we certainly made sure of that.
Obviously not content with just your defensive duties, you got up there and got the goal from the long throw. Lovely little finish.
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, extra long studs. We're not on the boots, but no, we work a lot on it. Hiltz is outstanding. He's the set piece coach here. He only retired last year, and you know about it when he trains with us. He gets involved and he does certain things, but he spends a lot of time working on his set plays, and it's important we go out onto the pitch and execute them as much as we can. And listen, the last couple of games we've scored 2 long throws now, and it's all part of the game. We're seeing it more and more, long throw-ins, aren't we? So yeah, it's nice to get on the score sheet, but more importantly for me, it's nice that the boys have got a win and we can go home happy.
Yeah, the whole back three change coming in today. When you come into like a side with new players alongside you, is that something you have to learn sort of to work together again?
I think maybe some players might have to. I'd like to think I'm experienced enough now to understand that I can help people either side of me. Listen, we've got young Keno who played right to me today, and I thought he was fantastic. Mac has come in after a few weeks out, and he's a brilliant pro anyway, and he knows what he's doing. He's experienced himself. So I think when you've played as many games as I have, I think I can understand what players need and what players want, and I try and help them as much as I possibly can. But I thought them 2 boys were top today. They've done the shift, and then the next 2 come on, and then Big Lloydie comes on, and that's what's so good about the club. It's players who just want to come on and help the football club as much as they can.
I was going to ask about Keenan, because I thought it was brilliant as well. But a young player coming into a side like this, is it your job to sort of help coach him through?
Yeah, I'd like to think so, and listen, that's something I really enjoy. I really enjoy doing that sort of thing. So when the gaffer told me the other day I was playing with Keno, it was something I wanted to get going with. I wanted to help him as much as I can. I wanted to try and guide him through the game. I didn't need to, but I wanted to try and do it. I thought he was outstanding. He's an aggressive player, and I made sure I told him in the dressing room, listen, it's not just about me talking to you. When the ball's on Middlesbrough's right hand side, make sure you're screaming at me for people behind me, and you're my eyes, and you can tell me what's going on. And he done that as well. So no, he can be really proud of his performance today at a tough place.
It's 47 points now. It feels, if you're not there yet, you're pretty close to definitely avoiding relegation. How do you see it?
I don't think we're there yet. I'll be honest, I don't think we're there yet. I think it's important we keep winning. I think it's important we keep on picking up points, and then when we do get there, we keep on picking up points again. It's as simple as that. And I say when we do get there, we need to make sure we get there for the football club. So we're doing some good stuff, we're playing some good stuff. We've got an important game, a really important game on Saturday. We all know that, we've already spoke about it in the dressing room, and we'll make sure we recover tomorrow and fly into that all guns blazing.
From a personal point of view, have you enjoyed your loan spell so far?
I've loved it. I just love footy. I think if you look at the way my career's gone the last few years, I've got a little bit older, obviously, as everybody does, and I just chase playing football. That's all I've done. I could have easily sat at a club I was at and just sat there and enjoyed it and done what I've always chased playing football. So when the gaffer gave me a call and the deadline week in January, it was something I wanted to do. He told me what he needed from me. It was a job I needed to do. I needed to come in and help the boys. And he mentioned about being an extension of himself, and he's been outstanding with me. Honestly, I can't tell you how good the manager's been with me. So can I keep on listening to him? Of course I can. Can I keep learning from him? Of course I can. Doesn't matter how old you are. I'll make sure I keep on doing that for him.
Obviously, you haven't been playing much in the first half of the season. Is it internally you really want to get out there and show that you're still at the level you're at?
I'm desperate to get out. Funny, it's still the level. I always feel I'm at that level no matter where I play. And listen, sometimes things happen at football clubs. There's no kind of disagreement with managers or whatever it is. Sometimes managers make a decision and I'm a big boy and I can get on with it, and this opportunity arose. It came to me, and like I said, the start of deadline week, and it was really important. I spoke to the manager, and when I spoke to him I wanted to come straight away. So I'm loving every minute of it. I'm loving working under him. I'm loving playing with these players, and can we finish the season as strong as we possibly can? I feel like my job had been done quite well.
What point do you start to look ahead to next season as well? Obviously it's a loan deal to the end of the year. I think you've still got time at Wrexham to run as well. Have you started thinking about that yet?
No, I'm just enjoying being here. I've not had a conversation with anybody. I've not spoken to my agents. I don't really need to. I'm just enjoying being here. There's a job to do. I said to you before about when you said about do you think you're there? I don't think we're there. I think we've got to get more points. So there's still a job to be done, and we'll make sure we give our all to get to the points that we need, and then pick up more points to finish as high as we possibly can. And can we do that as soon as we can? Start with a big game on Saturday. We'll try our best to do so.
There we go. That's Conor Coady speaking to myself after yesterday's win up at Middlesbrough. Some funny comments, to be fair. He does. He's a really good communicator, I think, as everyone's picked up. And we said it before. The irony being all these Leicester fans and Wrexham fans saying, all he can do is talk. But the communication part of what he does for us is so important. Like, he helped talk young Keenan Goff through the game, or when he came into the side at Leicester away and just helped calm us down and put in a good performance after the Millwall debacle, all those sort of things. Like, the irony being it's his communication which has been up there with the important things he's done for us. But he got his first goal for the club yesterday as well, which was brilliant. Jay says, do Charlton have a rule that you need to get 10,000 words in per interview just to get paid? A couple of people saying he should become a racing commentator as well. And it was great to hear from him. And yeah, he's been a fantastic sign. I asked him about his future. I mean, obviously nothing definitive yet there, but we'll see what happens in the summer. Right, we need to turn our attention to a massive game for us on Saturday at Oxford. Delighted to say that we're joined by Jack from the Jack Ward Football Podcast, who is an Oxford fan. Jack, good to see you, my friend. How you doing?
Yeah, good to see you guys. Thanks for having me on. It's I don't think I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So we're talking about we've written ourselves off now. We're not part of the relegation battle, so it's fine. But you guys, a lot of people had written you guys off until 3 games ago, saying there's too much to do. But all of a sudden, you put 3 wins together. And you're sitting on level points with Leicester City, and you've given yourselves a real chance to get out of him. And what's been the difference over the last few weeks?
Quite a bit, like you say. I think after we lost to Stoke in midweek, I think it might have been 2 weeks ago, that felt like it was one of those games where I don't think we were terrible, but it was one of them where you walk away and you go, if that isn't enough to even get something from the game, maybe our time is up. And then we knew that the West Brom home game was an absolute must win. If we'd have lost that game, it was it. And we did win it, which was fantastic and crucial. And then we just used that as a springboard, which is what we needed to do. And I think, the West Brom game was as imaginable, horrible, like a really tight, edgy game. 2 sides that knew that they couldn't really lose. And we know that West Brom have had such a dreadful season, and what was riding on that was so significant for both sides. And then the Preston game on the Friday night, I thought we were superb, took the lead in the game, and then just had a bit of a setback, and then probably should have won by more than just the 3 goals we scored. And then last night, same story. We won the game, and to be honest, I don't really. We're at the stage now of the season where I'm not quite too worried about how many goals we win by, but we won the game, but should have been more. So yeah, if you'd asked me that question 3 weeks ago, I think my mood would have been in a slightly different place. But yeah, we've like you say, we've done what we desperately wanted to do, which was give ourselves a fighting chance. And if that's not enough, then it's not enough. But nobody wants the season to end, do they? With 10 games to go, you want to still be fighting for something.
Hi, Jack. Yeah, massive win for you guys yesterday. I have to ask. Obviously, Gary Rowett was with you guys earlier this season, no more, and is now at Leicester. I know you guys don't play them again, I don't think, in your running, but How do you feel about that? Because it must be really annoying. I mean, I know you're in a good position now, a better position, but how is it knowing that you've got a former manager also in that relegation scrap with you? Like, can you see him being the reason Leicester could do it, or like, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think when we sacked Gary Rowett, and the reason why we sacked Gary Rowett, it was ironically the game that we lost to you, right? So it was after that game that we made that decision, and he left. And I think we always knew that if a job came up down the bottom end of the Championship, he was probably going to be in the running for it, and he probably would take it. He was linked with a Blackburn job, I think, a couple of weeks before he was given the Leicester gig. And I think, to be honest, in answer to your question, I think Leicester's squad's probably good enough anyway. I think that squad didn't. Of course, I think what Gary Rowett's done really well at Leicester, and similar to what he did at Oxford when he kept us up last season, that's why he's still sort of held in good regard in that sense, because he did what most managers couldn't do, which was, or not many thought would do, which was keep Oxford in the league after 25 years away from it. He instilled belief. That's what he does. He's really good at sort of like giving that impact and sort of reminding players that there is something else to give. And I think that's what he's done at Leicester. But you've got players in that Leicester squad that are, certainly not players that should be competing in the Championship. No, in the Championship relegation battle for sure. I mean, no players too good to be where they are. They're there for a reason. But that squad is a strong squad. I think Gary's done pretty well to stumble across a job like that. I think, and not taking anything away from it, but I think it's I think that squad's a lot better than probably the squads that he's inherited before, I'd say. But yeah, he's going to try his best to relegate us, I'm sure.
Hey, Jack. We did a thing last week where we looked at our remaining fixtures and we went, was it going to be win, we're lost? Looking at your fixtures, I've got your fixtures in front of me. You've got to play 5 of the teams who are going for promotion and playoffs. With those teams who've got really something to play for. Yeah, sorry. You've also got Sheffield Wednesday, so that's not bad. But you've got Millwall the last day of the season where they could possibly get a promotion. Have you got points total in your head, or are you just going to literally just take it cliched game by game and then just see what you can get and see what else? Because West Brom look terrible, to be I think now. But how do you feel you're after us? Do you think the rest of the season's going to go?
I think I don't want to give a manager's answer, but I think you've got to. I think even as fans, you've got to give it game by game. Because if you'd have told me before we played West Brom, Oxford United, you've got to go and hit 50 points, I'd have said, I don't think we're going to get 40 points. So, a points tally seems ridiculously out of reach when you're not winning. When you're winning, you can go, yeah, I think we can find another 10 points playing like this. I think it's, if we lose to Charlton on Saturday, suddenly, again, those fixtures have shortened and we've, like you say, got promotion contenders to face and a points tally looks really, really difficult, right? So, I think what we've got to do is build on the confidence that we're currently bringing. I think we've got a young squad, young front line in particular. I think our oldest attacker at the moment is 23, and that's Pitt Harris. So we've got a really hungry young squad, and they've been tremendous since they found that gear that I think we knew they had, but with younger players especially, you need confidence, and a 3-game winning run's massive on that. So we've just got to build on that. I think in relation to sort of answering your question about sort of going forward in those promotion opponents that we've got, Mark, I think it's about that reaction now as well. Like we're not going to win every game between now and the end of the season. So what we need to be able to do is we're not going to beat Southampton away, most likely. We're not going to beat Wrexham and Hull and whoever else we've got to play. So if we drop points now, we'll get a disappointing result in the midst of what has been a good run for us. It's then now about, right, we've shown resilience to start a winning run. Can we show resilience to get back on our feet if it goes wrong again, or we drop some points again? So I think what we've done is we've given ourselves an opportunity. We've stayed in the hunt. We've picked up enough points to be, inside the bottom 3 by goal difference at this stage. And, it's a big call, but I think by 12:30, after 12:30 when we play against you, I think the minute we kick off, the as it stands table will have us outside the bottom 3, right? So we've got to use the run we're on, and we haven't achieved anything yet. We've won 3 games on the bounce, but we're still relegated as of today. So it's still going to be a massive, massive sort of uphill challenge. Yeah,
well, Jack, it's fascinating to have you on. I think for Oxford to be in the Championship at all feels like quite an achievement. I find it interesting when Gary Rowett was struggling that quite a lot of the Oxford fans were like, why aren't we doing much better? But surely the expectation levels for Oxford were to be like if they were fourth from bottom, is that not a good season?
Sorry, Oxford United being fourth.
Yeah,
from bottom.
yeah. Would that not be a good season for you guys?
Anything staying up, I think. Like if we're, I don't think even expectation, to be honest. I'd probably say, I think if you'd ask most people before the start of the season where Oxford will be, every single one of them would 90% of them will probably have us in the bottom three, and that would be the case for probably if we stayed in the league for 5 seasons. I still believe that, because that's just. But we're fine with that. Like, we know we're punching above our weight, and that's probably why we. I was saying the other week, I don't think it's going to be a while before our expectation is to stay in the Championship. Our ambition is always to stay in the Championship, but I think it's going to take a while for us to go, yeah, we expect to be a Championship club, because we know where we are, we know who we are, and we know how much money we can spend.
Lovely stuff. Right, well, Jack, cheers for your time this evening. Thanks for hopping on at late notice. And
cheers, guys.
Hopefully we'll see you next season as well.
See you later.
There we go. That's Jack from the Jack Ward Football Podcast. Check him out. I said a couple of people, Tommy said that he's a really good podcaster on his channel. I had a look at one of the videos earlier and it did look like a good one. So make sure you check him out. Right. So from our point of view, Tash, I think our strive towards mid-table is a big. They're all big games if we want to finish mid-table for us Saturday. I suspect we will make a few changes from Wednesday, because obviously we made 5 changes going into yesterday. We'll go back to the first choice 11. And is there anyone who played last night who you think has made a reasonable shout to say that actually they'll come in instead of someone who's been starting over the last few weeks?
To be honest with you, I think you could probably argue Coady, considering his impact yesterday, but whether you have him in that back line or whether you have him in midfield is another question. Forwards-wise, I would go back to what we had before. That's not to say that I thought Kelman and Lieben did a bad job yesterday. I just think it wasn't a game for them to be getting loads of opportunities, was it? No, is the answer to that question. Probably I'd go back to, Jones obviously said, we're using our squad, and it's not that it's like a worse 11. It's just, we're just using different people. But I think, there's a reason why he rested those people yesterday. Like, that's fine to admit. So yeah, I'm not going into Saturday thinking that's fine, we can just not play our best team. I think you even building for next season, let's start with that narrative. Let's do that. Building for next season, you start playing the 11 that you think is your best and what you can get the best opportunity to get something out of Saturday. So, you want to put Ramsey back in there if he's all right with his hamstring. You're going to put Jonesy back in there because he doesn't have to worry about his yellow card anymore, thank God. You're going to have those people in there to give you the best finish possible. So, yeah, I maybe would have said Coady because he didn't start against Birmingham, did he? But then that would be harsh on Coventry, so probably not. So, yeah, I think maybe revert to type is my answer.
Yeah, and this isn't going to be a conversation for Saturday because obviously Thomas Kaminski is out injured at the moment. But Peaceful saying that Mannion now has to stay for the rest of the season. I was just looking at a debate on Twitter as well that people were having the same one. So, Mannion's, he's kept 2 clean sheets in the last couple of games. Obviously, Kaminski's had loads of clean sheets before he got injured as well. And Mannion did well yesterday, although we were talking on commentary about how proactive he is with coming out, and actually twice yesterday it nearly cost him because twice he came he came out for one that got headed away, the one he came out for one where he didn't get near it, and then Alien tried to chip him, but then Stretch Armstrong with his arms grasping the ball out of thin air to make sure he didn't get chipped, so he ended up making a good save from it. But overall, do you feel more assured with him at the back line because he does have this proactive coming off his line to grab the ball, which Kaminski doesn't really do as much?
Yeah, he looks comfortable, and I presume they'll be practicing. If you come out to fist a ball, you've got to knock it 30, 40 yards. You just can't love tap it. And yeah, it was lobbed straight back into his arms, and I think someone was covering back onto the line as well, and that was the only one. And I think he clobber Coady in the jump. No, I called for Mannion to come in quite early. And people say, yeah, but, Kaminski hasn't really done anything too wrong. But when you see how commanding he is and he's not afraid to come off his line, that's a difference. And he is a big old unit. He's a big, the one he blocked, like going sideways, which, like Tash said earlier, could have quite easily bounced over him and in, and it's gone out. So I can't see Kaminsky coming back and getting straight in. I know Jones has said it's going to be a straight fight. I don't think, unless Mannion really drops a ricket a couple of times, like the Spurs keeper, I don't think he's going to get changed. So for me, I think the only thing about Saturday is Ramsey, because Jones said it was, he'd been not training. It's whether he can go up. I think, what do you have, 30 minutes? Maybe with a good recovery, he could start, but that's probably the only one. But then if he's out, you put Coady alongside Lloyd and Amari, and then with Clark on that side. Don't know. I mean, it would be wrong of me not to mention Ibi Fuller at least once in a show. So get Ibi Fuller on there alongside Dykes. Have him floating behind him. Give TC a rest. Have him on the bench.
There we go. Right. Well, just on the Mannion debate, quite a few people calling in for Mannion. Mark says it's his spot to lose. All hell let loose says he's only let in 1 goal in 3 games. Richard says Mannion for the rest of the season. Yeah, quite a few people calling for it. Normie says Mannion is the vicar. He's great with crosses. That's quite good. And then Isaac says, if we can't decide who's better, why don't we get them to make a souffle, and whoever makes the best one gets the number 1 shirt? And on that note, I think we should get out of here. Right, don't forget, it's an early kickoff on Saturday, 12:30. And if you're going by train, just note that Oxford Station is nowhere near the stadium, so get to Oxford early and sort out a cab or a bus to get there. It's outrageous. We're playing Oxford away, one of the more local away games, and I'm leaving the house potentially before 6 a.m. so I can get there to set up. It's ridiculous, but there we go. That's the sky. Normally I like the 12:30 kickoffs, but this one's caught me out because it's too far from the station. But there we go. Right, massive thanks to all of you who've joined us on this evening's Charlton Live. We're going to be back on Sunday morning to look back at the game against Oxford. Yeah, Joe says there's plenty of parking. Yeah, there is, because one of their stands is a car park. But right, massive thanks to everybody who's joined us. Tasha, Mark, thanks for your time this evening.
Cheers,
You're
guys.
welcome.
Lovely stuff. Don't forget to check out the merch store, charltonlive.etsy.com. Subscribe on our YouTube channel. Subscriber numbers have been going up all season, which is lovely to see. Also subscribe wherever you see the pod so you never miss another episode. But for now, I'm Louis Mendez. This has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. Thanks for your time. We'll see you again on Sunday.
Charlton Live.